You know what's surprisingly hard to spot out in the ocean? A diver. That's why we bring our trusty surface marker buoy, or SMB. Basically, a flag that screams, "Hey, I'm here," so boats don't run us over and we don't end up lost at sea. And when I first started shopping for my own, I thought, how complicated can it be? It's a tube you fill with air. Well, I ended up with some total duds and quickly realized there's a lot more to these things than meets the eye. Since then, I've gained from years of mentorship and experience, and in this video, I'm skipping the brand talk and marketing fluff, and I'm going to focus on the timeless stuff that truly matters when shopping for a SMB. This way, even 5 years from now, when some ultra futuristic glowing sausage drops on the market, probably powered by AI, you'll still know what to look for. Maybe. Hopefully. So you're thinking, isn't this just a balloon? Well, kind of. But also, no. What is this surface marker buoy and why does it matter? It's rarely taught in open water certification, so it must not be that important, right? I disagree. If you had an instructor that taught you how to use a DSMB or SMB, that's great. I wasn't, and I know a lot of people who weren't. A SMB is really just an elongated balloon like this you will fill with air on the surface to help make sure you, as a diver, are visible to other boats. This is important as it is extremely easy to be missed or run over if you don't have one. But there is another variation to the SMB and a more common one for divers. I advocate that every diver should always pack at least one and have on them on their dives at all times. The DSMB, or rather Delayed Surface Marker Buoy. Very similar to the SMB, but this one you can deploy under the water. How cool is that? And it will rise to the surface while you stay in place below the surface. Very ideal. You don't deploy yourself with your DSMB as it shoots to the surface. More importantly, it allows you to communicate with the boat that cares where you are and exactly where you're going, so you are not lost in the event you get blown away from your dive site. Also, another good reason to have a DSMB is if you have a lost diver scenario, which is quite normal. The two groups can deploy DSMBs, and if one group goes to the surface and the other group is still surfacing, you will be able to find each other at the surface easier and a little bit faster. The marker buoy is designed to stand erect at the surface and able to be seen at a good distance, often with reflectors at the top. Many divers alike have given it the loving nickname of the safety sausage. So I'm going to use it as the name for the rest of this video. Just don't make me regret it by flooding comments with sausage jokes. Actually, go ahead and do that. Let's see how many times I say sausage by the end of this video. I know this sounds like the start of a weird late night ad, but yes, size does matter. Plus things like color, material, and other features can make or break your sausage experience. You might start out thinking that bigger is always better, but that's not true. Safety sausages usually range from 1 to 2.5 meters or 3 to 8 feet long, and 7 to 20 centimeters or 2.5 to 8 inches wide. Divers Alert Network, or DAN, my trusted source for safety, recommends outside of training environments that the bare minimum length you should consider for your scuba diving is 1.8 meters or 6 feet for open water. So there is such a thing as too small of a sausage. But how about too big? It can be mighty impressive to whip out your humongous sausage at the end of the dive. and impress everyone in your group with how visible it can be. But there are also a lot of dangers that come with it. Let's face it, DSMBs can be a bit tricky to learn and wield correctly. And there is some chance you might flub it and snag it on yourself. A large sausage is just going to be an overwhelmingly positive buoyant force that's going to pull you up with it, which can be very dangerous. Seriously. Also, it is very difficult to hold a tall sausage erect when down below. So, with it limp at the surface, it really defeats the whole point of visibility. That's why I'd personally go with and recommend a much more modest 1.8 to 2 meter or 6 to 8 feet for your DSMB. Oh, I mean your sausage, of course. And if you're planning to be in rough surf where swells are an issue, perhaps open ocean, deep in the Pacific, I'd also pack an extra large SMB safety sausage that you can deploy once you get to the surface. Safety and modesty first. That way, the boat driver near you can look over and say to themselves while being impressed, "Damn, there's definitely a diver over there." By the way, if you are a first-time learner and looking for a sausage that is below the safety standard but easier to train on, you can pick up a shorter pygmy sausage, as the danger of pulling you up with it is much less of a concern. You can usually fight against the buoyancy and even pull these things down from the surface if you had to. However, just note that it's for training only. The official statement for Dan does say you can have too small of a sausage, so keep that in mind when choosing your safety sausage for open ocean. These things are great to train on though. Beyond that, size is situation. So don't go around comparing safety sausage sizes. Okay, let's talk about some important features when picking out your safety sausage. Look for these reflective strips on the top of it. This is a necessary feature in my book. As low light conditions, it ensures your safety sausage is visible when the lights hit it. It's especially important for night dives. They often will have the words diver below or diver alert SMB or something like that on them, but it isn't standard. It usually says something with diver. This can be helpful in event someone on a boat enjoying their chilled day, maybe having a nice cold beer, when suddenly a giant sausage launches out of the water near them. This helps give them some context on what just happened and why. Not everyone is familiar with these markers, so these keywords like diver help inform them of the purpose. What about colors? Well, the entire sausage is usually filled with one single bright color, like yellow, red, orange, and pink, or in this case, bright yellow. If you're doing a little bit of work or go with a regular dive team, you could convey meaningful messages to the surface with different colors, like orange meaning everything is cool, and yellow means oops, something went wrong. Though this requires every diver carry 2 sausages of each color, but there is no standard for this, and I'll be happy to see you just carrying one. So unless you're doing something more fancy and really coordinating with another dive team, pick a color that is highly visible and meaningful to you. I went with this nice neon yellow and these orange colors and red. From my research, the most visible colors tend to be fluorescent, orange, and green. Is this green or yellow? I don't know. Am I colorblind? I don't know anymore. You tell me, what color is this? And one more thing, make sure your sausage has an overpressure valve, or OPV, a little gadget that helps expanding air escape so your sausage doesn't explode on its way up. Quite handy. Usually has a little string coming out of it like this, and you may want to make sure it's tight. Trust me, without that OPV valve, there's nothing sadder than seeing your safety sausage explode on its way to the surface. Because remember, air expands as you're ascending, and that's why it's going to overfill. and this OPV is absolutely necessary. Also, check the material. A cheaper, low-end sausage may be made of plastic or PVC, while a better crafted sausage would be made of nylon, with potentially an additional sealed water bladder inside. That's very fancy. I do have one with an extra water bladder inside. In addition, the shaft of your sausage might come with some pockets where you can affix your spool or reel while your sausage is in stow, or nestle in an emergency beacon in an emergency. Or in this case, put a little pocket whistle, maybe a nice glass or a mirror for the surface. You can kind of put various things in here that you don't need regularly. But don't put anything critical in there. You don't want to lose it in case this pocket rips. It's not a necessary feature, but it is nice to have. You get what you pay for, but let's be real, it's not worth cutting corners on the materials. This is your lifeline. You don't want your sausage falling apart when you need it most. All right, you've got your sausage. Now you need to control your sausage, and that's where the spool or reel comes in. These parts are often overlooked, but today we are going to make sure we're well armed to wield our safety sausages. So, what's the difference? I'm going to talk about spools for completeness. A spool is generally smaller and has a hole in the center to spin freely after you deploy your safety sausage. A reel usually has a handle and a crank on it to assist with tightening and retracting the line. I don't have a reel to show you here, so I'll try and show a clip or a picture of a reel. A reel can have a much longer line on it as it scales better than spools. These spools are often called finger spools and can be nice as it can spin freely around your fingers and has little chance of jamming. From my experience, a reel will be used more for technical or cave dives where divers will be penetrating something, and the reels can be used to lay a line that can be retraced to ensure no one gets lost. And they have a lot more line on those reels. And if you have a reel, you might as well just use it to deploy your safety sausage as well, instead of having to carry both a spool and a reel. Otherwise, a spool is often used in non-overhead environments and is a bit easier to wield in general for safety sausage deployment. Of course, this is really a personal choice, so whether you choose a reel or a spool, they are both acceptable. I personally use a finger spool, so I don't need to worry about that rare chance of a jam. They're easier, they're smaller, and I know most experienced divers will prefer a finger spool, unless, of course, you're penetrating or very deep. One warning though, some spools have sharp edges when they spin. They can slice like tiny underwater buzz saws. So yeah, maybe give your spool a gentle inspection before your next dive. Generally, if the metal ones or hard plastic, you can go ahead and rub the inner line. This one is smoothed out, it's rounded, so I don't have to worry about that. And I have this metal one, which is probably the most dangerous of them all, but you can see it has this plastic on the outside. So you would just have to watch and make sure this plastic is intact. If that plastic is off or there is no plastic on your spool, that's a concern for cutting at least. You can greatly cut your fingers on these things and it can slice deep. To let the video flow, from now on, I will just refer to both reels and spools as just spools because I'm lazy and I'm sure you don't want me to keep saying reels and spools. So, the sweet spot for the spool is the material. This is preference, of course, but the more durable but slightly more prone to rusting, metallic spools are heavier, leading them to being negatively buoyant. This is a bit of a tragedy in the making if you drop it, and you're gonna drop it. If you do go metallic, make sure the metal is marine grade stainless steel or hard anodized aluminum so it's resistant to rust. While a plastic but less durable spool can be neutrally buoyant, and what's cool is if you drop it, you can usually see it spin in place. And that's really cool. I mean, even if you flub it up, you're probably gonna just see that spin right in front of you, and just be careful not to grab it until it slows down because of that buzzsaw effect. This is a nice feature to help you learn how to wield your sausage. And let's face it, everyone has a bad day and has a chance to flubber the spool right out of their hands. Some lighter metal spools, such as the ones made of aluminum, can be closer to neutrally buoyant, so you might have to ask and see the marketing or test it out. Neutrally buoyant is a nice feature. In the event that you drop it, it will sit there and spin near you. Another consideration here is the material of the line. Some basic fabrics such as nylon fray over time, like this one. You can see how much is fraying after many deployments, and that can ultimately snap on you after some usage. A lot of usage, mind you. But the goal is when you start seeing it fray like this, just go ahead and unload some, cut it where it's fresh. Usually it starts fraying at the ends, but just make sure you do that. Some higher quality plastic materials like Dyneema lines don't fray and have some stretch in them, leading to a bit longer lasting durability in the line. But they can also be a bit slippery to use with gloves on. So trade-offs. For line length, 30 to 50 meters, 100 to 160 feet is solid for most recreational dives. But if you're doing something deeper or diving in strong currents, you might need up to 100 meters, but that is very situational. And of course, it's going to need a bulkier spool to handle all that line, so I would advise picking the minimum you need. In general, I go with 30 meters or 100-foot line. That's more than sufficient for most recreational diving. I also forgot to mention the difference between different plastic spools. You have these neat Delrin plastic, which generally is a little bit higher quality than normal plastic. Delrin is more neutrally buoyant and usually a higher quality spool. Also, don't forget the clip on the spool. It's gonna be a double ender, and it does two things. Weighs down the line to help it sink and helps your DSMB from floating away if you need to let it go. Make sure the clip is strong and easy to use, even with cold hands and gloves. Might be good to bring your gloves and give it a try. I tend to find that the clips that come with the DSMBs are not fantastic. You get what you pay for maybe. Pull down the trigger of it and get a good feel for it. If it's a bit finicky, you can look for a different one. These ones are sufficient. Brass or steel, that's an entirely another video to talk about. But usually, as long as the clip is fairly easy to use with gloves on, then you're good to go. It's important to note, you won't use this while you're operating your sausage, but rather put it on the line for the weight on the line. You should never clip this onto yourself while deploying your sausage. Otherwise, you'll just deploy with it. But you will use it to store the DSB on your person during the dive. So usually clip this onto your person somewhere, ideally a D-ring in your pocket so it's stowed. Otherwise, you might find your safety sausage deploying without you wanting it to at some point of your dive, which is the most annoying thing. So I love to have these things in a pocket. And yes, that's a lot of info just to make sure you don't end up with a wrestling match with your sausage. But hey, no stress. This video is not going anywhere, so feel free to come back anytime. And I do want to release a video in the near future to help you wield your safety sausage a little bit better. So make sure you subscribe to get that when it comes out. When you're ready to deploy your safety sausage, you must first fill it with air to transform it from a limp piece of sausage into a proud sausage that people can see at the surface. And this is not as easy as you would think. You got two main filling options: using your regulator or blowing it up yourself. Both have their good and bad points, which can really affect your safety when you're coming up. But if you practice with either and you're comfortable with it, then you can get good with either fill method. It might come down to personal preference on which you want on your DSMB. But in some cases, your sausage might have both fill methods. The regulator method means you're going to take your spare octo and take it underneath, and there's usually a hole at the bottom of your sausage, and you're going to go ahead and use your octo to put air into your sausage, making it very proud. Just make sure you don't let that sausage get away from you. Just note, if you use your spare air source, it is a known entanglement hazard. So make sure you are careful where you're holding your sausage and you don't instantly tangle yourself deploying your sausage. With these, you want to inspect the bottom and make sure it has a self-sealing and does not stay open, usually with magnets on the bottom, like this one. It is not letting air out and it's self-sealing. Otherwise, if it stays open and hits the surface and immediately goes limp, the vigor of your sausage will be lost as it escapes from the hole on the bottom before everyone on the surface could even witness your sausage. This will be a very sad looking sausage, and more importantly, completely ineffective. The other method is with an oral inflation valve, which a lot of people don't like, but I actually prefer. And it generally is more popular with the tech diving or cave diving community. The secret to this sausage filling method is that I can be down at 30 meters and just put a fair sized breath of air in. It doesn't take a lot of air, and the sausage will look pretty limp, but once I let it go, the thing will be proud at the surface as the air from my breath expands. Physics is awesome. And this also includes if you're using your octo to fill your sausage. You don't need to fill it to the max. Depending on how deep you are, remember that air will expand in it. You just need to make sure you put enough in it that it's fully erect by the time it gets to the surface, or you're gonna have a really limp sausage at the surface. The thing is, these oral inflation valves can be a bit tricky. Some valves require you to press into them to fill them, like this one, and they can be hard to operate in cold water when you can barely feel your jaw or hands. You're kind of fumbling around this thing with a big old glove on. It's like, oh, it can be harder than you think. And that's why I say go for the one-way valve. You just pop the whole thing, right in your mouth and give it a little puff of air, and you're golden. I don't need to push down on this thing. While this thing, I had to put in my mouth and I had to push on it. While this thing, so much easier. Anyway, the general census is that people tend to feel oral valves require more effort to blow up. Personally, I recommend it. And since the sausage is sealed fully, there is no hole for your regulator. The air is encapsulated more and it's more robust. The choice is of course yours. Just make sure to avoid the ones that are fully open at the bottom. If you get one that has both options, that works too. But of course kind of loses the nice bit of being a little bit more robust. Both are safe and have small various pros and cons to them. It's more of a personal preference. So pick one, practice, get good with it, and you'll be fine. Some sausages might try to be like a Swiss Army knife and give you all the options, which would be nice. But to me, that's double the failure points, and likely it's not really worth it. I'd say make a choice with how you want to fill your sausage full of goodness and stick with it. And that's one cool part about being able to buy the different parts of your sausage and build it part by part. As long as you understand from the content of this video, now you're armed with knowing what to buy. It really becomes your own Frankenstein sausage and can be cheaper or higher quality than buying the kits that come with the full combo. So yeah, buying a safety sausage isn't exactly a grab the first one you see kind of deal. There's size, color, material, inflation method, spools, clips, and more. But remember, the right one only helps if you know how to wield it. Don't wait for an emergency. Practice deploying your sausage regularly and work up the comfort of being able to deploy it in deeper water. Make sure you stay tuned as I'll be coming out with that video to help you wield your sausage. And if you're looking for a new dive mask, I have a video in a similar fashion to this one that will help you make that buying decision here. And I have a series dedicated to these gear reviews here. Check them out, and until next time.